Hello, hello, everybody, and welcome to the Smoko podcast. My name is Alexis Armstrong, your host. Nice to meet you. The Smoko podcast is a place to celebrate and highlight women, trans women, and non binary folk working within STEM and trade occupations. So please tune in, take a break, join us. We're on Smoko. Today, we are extremely lucky to be joined by the lovely Patricia Robinson, who is a first-year carpentry apprentice with a local 27 union. And so she's going to talk all things carpentry, her experience of carpentry, her experience in the trades, her projects that she's working on right now, and also her projects that she's working on with Habitat Hamilton. So I'm really excited to talk with her today. I'm looking forward to it. Patricia, thank you so much for coming on the show. I appreciate it immensely.
Thank you so much, Alexis. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Oh my goodness, you're welcome. It's a freaking honor. I love the fields of carpentry because I don't know anything about it, and it's been one of those ones that I'm like, if I changed it up and if I redid my career and did something new in trades, I would choose carpentry. So I am so excited to learn more. I really am.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And maybe that's where we start, Patricia, is how did you find this experience and how did you find this industry of carpentry? Because I know you have a little bit of a different story that you were in office administration for 10 years. Could you explain like your draw to carpentry, why the switch to trades, and then what was that moment that you were like, yep, it's time. I'm going back to school. I'm going to become a carpenter. How did that happen?
Well, I mean, I've always, ever since I was a kid, I've always been curious about how things are built, or, I didn't have any male role models in my life that did any kind of blue collar work. My dad was a
Mm.
businessman, and I come from a family of women. I only have sisters, but I always was curious. I always thought that like power tools were cool, but I just never thought that that was something that I could do
Yeah.
because I saw success as a briefcase and a suit in an office and
Yeah.
a you
Yes.
know
Yeah.
so my brain always automatically went to, well, like that's what I need to do if I want to be successful. And then it was when I started having my romantic relationships, and I had boyfriends that I lived with, and they would come home just like filthy, and they would have the most interesting stories about their workday,
Yeah.
and I was envious of it. But I still thought like, but there's no way I could do it. Like there's no way that I'm
Yeah.
smart enough or strong enough or
Oh,
And then what happened was I started watching furniture restoration videos on YouTube all the time.
amazing. Okay. Love it.
So then it was just even just like using a sander or like
Hmm.
painting or any of that stuff. So I started taking a women in woodworking course at Mohawk College, which is a college here
Cool.
in Hamilton. And I did that nights, and I fell in love. And I was like, okay, well, this could, like, I just saw it as like a side hustle I could do after my administration jobs. And then I randomly came across this pre apprenticeship program for carpentry because after I started working with all the wood, I noticed that even if I'm driving around, I would see like people framing houses and like
Yeah.
even just all, and I was just instantly drawn to it, being like, that would be so cool to do. So I
Not
saw
me.
this
I can't do it yet, but like that would be so cool to do.
yeah, like that's so neat.
Yeah.
And then I fell down the rabbit hole of TikTok and Instagram of seeing other women posting themselves doing all this awesome stuff. And I was like, why can't I? Like this is so cool. And then I found this free program at that same college
Hmm.
that I was at. And I signed up, I interviewed for it, and I got it. And then I haven't looked back since. And then that course was just like life changing. Like I loved every single day. And I was like, this is
Oh,
what I've been missing.
yeah. This is the
Yes.
spark that I wanted. This is like kind of, oh my goodness. Like,
Yeah.
Patricia, that's a crazy story, and I love it on so many like aspects of it. I love that it was basically like the gateway drug was restoring furniture. That's what
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
that was the first like little taste to be like, okay, this is could be like what it feels like to use power tools and to like make something. But I
Hmm.
love that it was Instagram. That's so cool and so powerful that it was like influencers and Instagram that showed
Hmm.
you that you could do this and this could be you as well. That's fantastic.
Yeah. No, definitely. I would say that was probably the biggest influence that kind of made me realize that. Because I think that we're kind of built or raised to be certain things and not be
Hmm.
other things. And I think once you visually see another woman that could be around your size or looks like you or is from the same area as you and they're doing it, you're like, oh my God, I can do it
Yeah.
too. Like, like that thought doesn't really cross your mind until you really see it with your own eyes. So
100%. I couldn't agree more because it's funny because when you were describing your childhood, I was like, oh, that was my family. My dad's a businessman as men as well.
yeah,
And then I have nothing but sisters. And so growing up, we had the same thing that we weren't really exposed to trades and to STEM. And both myself and my younger sister, who's a welder, we both kind of had the same kind of trajectory of not knowing it existed, always being really interested in building something,
yeah,
thinking that we had to be a certain way. And then it wasn't until we saw female representation, myself being my first geology professor and hers being someone who like tinkered on ships and like taught her welding. Until we saw our first women doing it, that wasn't until we switched. And then we were like, okay, yeah, we're going to do it. Because I think you're right. Like you do get brought up so traditional in a way that you don't think that this is possible. So I love that you were able to discover it. And I hope that you've reached out to those influencers and been like, "Hey guys, I did it." Like I hope you've talked to them.
oh my gosh, it's so funny because some of those influencers have actually become close friends of mine, which is
Oh, I
amazing
love
because a
that.
lot of them ended up actually being founders of I think we'll talk about it later, the Women on Site that I'm a part
Mm.
of. So that's cool. It's like meeting your heroes, right? So it's
Oh.
awesome. Yeah.
Oh, that's so freaking cool. And I
Yeah.
love to hear that. I'm excited to talk more about Women on Site than at the end of it. I love that those were the influencers that brought you into it. And
Yeah.
maybe this is like kind of what we were already talking about is that because this wasn't something that you grew up with, my understanding is that you weren't really familiar with power tools until you probably took that first college course at
Yeah.
Mohawk. Could you kind of walk through how you overcame that fear? Because I think people think that that's a really big barrier to trades. If they didn't grow up
Hmm.
with power tools or being comfortable with that, not only like they haven't even seen that they can be in trades, but if they don't have power tool access, they get really nervous and they think it's not for them. How did you overcome that fear?
I think mainly it's just, I just kind of went into it knowing that I knew nothing
Okay.
and expressed to everyone around me that I knew nothing, you
Yeah.
know? I think a lot of people go into it and they just kind of they don't want to hide how little they know. You know what I mean? Because they don't
Mm.
want to seem like they're, no, 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 no. Like just, and I luckily had great people in my program that were very patient with me.
Oh, I love that.
So once everyone around you knows that it's your first time using it or using power tools, then they're patient. They'll really teach you how to do it. And once you get the hang of it, it's easy.
Mm.
It's so I think it was just the people around me. I've been very lucky. I've had really supportive mentors within schooling and within work. So I think
That's
that's kind of what helped with it. Is yeah, you have to go in and just say, I know nothing. Please baby me with this. Yeah.
but honestly, I think you're not giving yourself enough credit because, like, yes, it's wonderful. You've had fantastic mentors. That's amazing. But it takes a really, like, strong person to admit to be like, I don't know something because I think that's really nervous when you're in something new. So, testament to you that you walked in and you were like, yep, don't know it all. Like, teach me everything. And, like, please like teach me how to use this. That's amazing.
Thank you, thank you. Yeah, I can almost like I need like a few people just witnessing me using this very dangerous tool so I don't hurt myself or somebody else for the first few times. And then yeah, once you get the hang, it's just it is very intimidating, but once you use it a few times and you have people around you that are supportive, oh, then
It
it's very
feels
easy.
fine.
So,
It's
yeah.
old hat. And I'm
Yeah.
guessing like when you do like master that, especially because you've come in with like kind of nothing and then you become masters, how good does that feel? Like are you just like completely obsessed with learning more things, like addicted to it?
Yes, I'm the kind of person where I want to know everything. I love
Mm,
learning, but I also don't like if someone asks me to do something or if someone has a question, I don't like saying I don't know how or I don't
mm,
know. So yeah, I'm anything that I learn you just naturally kind of like let's say a week or two goes by and you notice that this one saw that you used that was kind of heavy before that you weren't really confident with,
yeah.
you're realizing that it's really easy now and now you can pick it up with no problem,
Yeah.
like those kinds of moments of realizations, like they're so like positive and gratifying, if that's even a word.
Mm-hmm.
Gratification.
Gratify. I think it is a word,
Something
and if
like, I
not,
don't know.
it is now. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, no, it feels so good when things that were so uncomfortable become really comfortable for you. It kind of just hires that confidence, because that's mostly what the issue is just having the confidence with all these new things that you've never done before, right?
Totally. And it's like it's new things that you haven't done before too, but it's also again like what we went to at the very, very start of feeling like maybe that this environment wasn't designed for you or you didn't know about it. So there's going to be a lot of kind of like bias that you have even against your own ability and your own
Yeah.
what's possible for you. So you have to overcome that too, right? Like it's a layered amount of nerves. It's a layered amount of stress that you have to
Mm-hmm.
overcome. And that's really beautiful that you were able to kind of do that and to master it. Like that's really freaking cool. I absolutely love that. Um
Thank you.
you're welcome. And maybe going from like training and from learning about it, could you kind of walk through how you've now used that? Like what is your day-to-day look like? Like what are you responsible for? What does a carpenter do on a day-to-day? What does that look like?
Currently, I'm not really doing much of what I did at my pre-apprenticeships. My pre-apprenticeship was mostly framing and concrete forming.
Okay.
The job that I was called for within my union is actually at a plant. So I'm doing scaffolding, which is something
Oh,
no
cool.
one touched base on at all during my
Yeah.
pre-apprenticeship. So I went in with absolutely no idea. I'd never seen it before. I'd never touched it before.
Whoa.
So that was kind of a lot at the beginning. But luckily, like I hate to say it, but I've just been so lucky. The crew
Mm.
that I have at the job that I'm at, they've all been doing scaffolding for like a million years, and they're all so patient with me. And I know I've learned a lot very quickly, and it's only because I feel comfortable to learn, you know? So for
No?
day to day, it's, early mornings and then getting to work. It's actually a shutdown that I'm working at. So if anyone doesn't know what that is, it's just when
Okay.
a plant temporarily, I think it's as per the Ministry of Labor, they shut down for a certain amount of time just so that everything can be inspected. And then
Okay.
anything that needs to be welded, fixed, any of the pipes, you do it then. So they want to make it as short of a timeline as possible, obviously, because production is their business, right?
Yes. Yeah,
So
they
they
want to get back to
hire
it. Hmm.
exactly. So they hire a whole handful. Like I think we had about 1,000 workers that were hired, and we have a specific little tent that we all stayed at that were just for the shutdown. So we go to the tent, we get our coveralls, and then we kind of gear up. And then every day is just random jobs that we get of build a scaffold over here, dismantle one over here, modify one over here. There's a lot of working at heights, which was very
Yeah.
nerve wracking for me to begin with. A lot of fall arrest being worn and tying off, but I very quickly kind of got over those fears. But yeah, in the beginning, it was really, really nerve wracking.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, because like that was going to be my next like follow-up question is could you describe like what goes into scaffolding? Because my understanding of it is that these huge structures, they weigh a lot. There's like very intricate, a lot of components, and then heights. Like you
Yes.
are fully scaling the entire length of the plant in some aspects, I would assume, right?
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
God.
Yeah, the material is pretty heavy, so I've had to bulk up a little bit.
Mm.
But even that, we were talking about earlier, how something in the beginning seems hard. Like even just, I remember my first few days not being able to pick up, one,
Hmm.
two, and now I can carry like four on one shoulder. Just like
Amazing.
seeing,
Yeah.
like
Yeah. Seeing you get used to it, that you're like, oh yeah, this is old hat. I got this now. Yeah.
yeah. And it's like, I think that a big barrier for women is that we don't think that we're strong enough. I wouldn't even say that it's my strength that's changed. It's because I had the right mentors that taught me how to pick things up and how
Yes.
to carry them properly. So it's a lot easier. So that's important too.
I couldn't
Yeah.
agree more with you. Like, because I do think
Yeah.
that that's a big barrier that we think that we're not strong enough. And I remember one time I was carrying a core box, which is like around 100 pounds, and I was struggling and it was like falling and material. It was a mess. And I was like, I can't hold this. I'm too weak. And my mentor was like, of course you can't hold it. You're holding it like out of your body like a tray. No one can hold it like that. Like, that's just 100 pounds on your little baby wrist. He was like, put it close to your body, put it on a hip, and then you're gonna be fine. And like, sure enough, the next one I picked up, I was like, oh, this is actually like really easy. And he was like, yeah, duh. Come on, keep going. Like, it's just like sometimes it's just that mental block and like learning how to do it from someone that's done it their entire life, like this crew that you're with, which is
hmm
wonderful to see. I love that.
Yeah,
That's
yeah, and then I did have one female mentor as well. Like even just simple things like hoisting or picking up something to pass, because obviously, as a first year, a lot of my job is just passing materials
mm,
to the journeyman, but they're pretty high up sometimes, so I gotta kind of hoist it up. So even just the manner in which we do that as women is very different than men.
yeah.
So even just that, men use like their chest and their arms and their shoulders, where we
Mm,
have all of our strength mostly in our legs. So it's about like
hmm.
squatting and then pushing it up instead of using all of your back and shoulders. So it's just even
Up
things like
here.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's true. Like we're gonna do the same job and we're more than capable to do the same job. It's just probably gonna look a little bit different because our body types are looking a little different. But same way that like a short guy and a tall guy would do the same task a little bit different. Like same thing with like any
Yeah.
other body type difference is that there's just gonna be in a physical performing a physical task is going to look a little bit different. But that's
Mhm.
so cool that you get to do scaffolding, and I love that they just threw you into that you're like, I was not trained for this, man. Like this was not signed up for at school with framing. That's really cool.
Yeah, yeah, no, I definitely did not know what I was getting myself into, but I've ended up really, really enjoying it. I don't think it's something that I'll do forever. I don't think that's kind of the
Mm,
sector I'll stick to. But I think in general, in any kind of construction, I think it's kind of good to have a knowledge of scaffolding. So I'm happy. But
yeah.
yeah, it was a pretty big shock.
I'm sure the first day you were like, oh, but calling your mom on the way home to be like, okay, something weird happened. Like it was very, very different.
Yes, because with the union, when you get calls for union jobs, sometimes like they don't give that much description. They just kind of give you
Mm,
a time and a place and a person that you're reporting
okay.
to. So I went and I didn't even realize the scaffolding was a part of carpentry. I didn't even
Oh
know
my
that
God.
at that point.
Yeah.
But I'm glad I stuck around.
Well, I'm happy you learned that. Like it's a foundational thing, and I love that you got to learn that. And like maybe this goes to our next one of like the union. And that's crazy that it was just a blind that you don't really get that much info in some
Yeah.
jobs. But like you're currently right now, you're working through your first year apprenticeship. So congratulations. It's a huge
Thank
thing.
you.
Could you kind of explain how apprenticeship works, like what goes into it, and then how the education works? Because it's through Local 27, is that correct?
Yes. Yes. So with the apprenticeship within Local 27, so with most apprenticeships, you work a certain amount of hours, and then once you've reached those hours, then you go to do like a 2 month chunk of schooling, and then
Okay.
you work, and then once that's finished, you're technically on your second year.
Okay,
The
amazing.
good, yeah, the good thing about the Local 27 is that you don't have to do them in that kind of order.
Mm.
So if I wanted to go to school and do all of my schooling in one big block, I can do that right now and then go get all
Okay.
my hours after. So it takes about 3 years, 3 to 4 years to get your journeyman license or certification. The thing with carpentry, though, I know with plumbing and I think with electrical, and I think there's one more, is that you have to be a journeyman to do any kind of work.
Okay.
With carpentry, you don't have to be. I think you should be. I mean, if you're building homes, I think that should
Yes,
be.
I think I agree as well. I think you do
Yeah,
need to have that professional registration. I would feel a lot better if someone
right?
is legit building my house, other than some guy to be like, yeah, I only did the first year. It's fine. Don't worry about it. Like I would feel that comfortable. I agree with the journeyman. I like that.
Yeah. But so then, yeah, and so whenever you're out of work, you put yourself on what's called a mixed 2020 list. So
Okay.
it's just a call list. So whenever anyone is looking, an employer could call the union and just say, I'm looking for a first year
Oh, wow.
that has experience in X, Y, and Z, and then just I know it's all like a computer system, like auto generated kind of thing. They'll just kind of pluck out the first years that have that, and then they just kind of start down a list of calling, and it's just an automated message, and you can accept the job or reject the job. So
Oh,
a lot of times it's just kind of sitting waiting for calls, which is
yeah.
yeah.
I could
Yeah.
see that having kind of like a negative side to it. It's really cool. No, thank you for explaining it because I like it on multiple ways. I love that answer that I didn't realize you didn't have to go down a certain timeline with apprenticeship. I thought that you had to do like maybe school first and then your hours. But I love that you can kind of make your own adventure and like make it up to your own schedule and what works best for you. I think that's super flexible and like opens up the door for everyone to enter into this field, right? Like anyone can do it because you can customize your schedule. So I love that. On the call list, when they do that 2020, are you set down for a certain specialty or are you kind of all types of carpentry and you don't know what you're going to end up doing?
When you start, you're pretty much like all different types of carpentry. It all really depends on what the employer is looking for.
Okay.
So if they check off that they want scaffolding experience, prior to this job I didn't have any.
Yeah.
So that's not checked off on my profile. So like that system would just automatically just not consider me. I wouldn't be someone that was called.
Okay.
So if someone is just in general looking for just like a laborer or like a helper, I'm sure that they would kind of leave everything open, and then it would be the first years with no experience. That's why your first year is difficult, because not only do you kind of not have a lot of those things checked off they could be looking for.
Yeah.
But what I've really quickly learned is that it is about like it's about who you know. So a lot of places, they don't really use the mix 2020. They just know people that know other people, and then they can recommend people, and they hire in that regard. So that's why first years kind of have like a little bit of difficulty, because we're still kind of getting our foot through the door. You know, it's all about networking. So it's really important. Yeah.
Networking, and also probably taking every single job. Like, it's wonderful that you had that mindset when someone was like, hey, you're scaffolding, instead of being like, no, I don't know what I'm doing, to be like, yeah, okay, I'll learn.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I might as well learn a new skill. Yeah, exactly. Like, I think that's kind of your first year, is just saying yes to everything, networking. You mentioned a couple words that I don't really know. Could you kind of explain the different titles? Like, do you go from first year and then like a laborer and then a journeyman once you've completed your 4 years? I know that there's also like my sister for welding, she became a red seal welder this year, and we gave her a huge party because it was like it was a freaking grind to get there. Like, do you have to do red
that's
seal?
amazing. You don't have to. I mean, you can do pretty much work anywhere as a journeyman. It's just the red seal just kind of like solidifies how much you get paid throughout Canada. So, you know, your apprenticeship and becoming a journeyman is kind of is within Ontario. It's with Ontario's kind of jurisdiction. So, you know, I could have my journeyman here and kind of get paid a certain amount, but if I chose to move to Alberta, that's a whole different type of apprenticeship they do out there. So I may not be accepted as a journeyman over there.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah. So the red seal is a lot more dineros. And in that way, if you travel throughout Canada or work anywhere throughout Canada, like, you will be seen as red seal. So,
okay. I understand.
Thank
you for explaining it, because I didn't know what it was, and I was like, maybe that's just a BC thing, that like that's what journeymen are called in BC, that they're called red seal. I didn't realize it was separate. So that's kind of a different thing, though, that you almost have to go to that like national registration. It's weird that when you go to Alberta, that's honestly kind of a shame that you might not be recognized as a journeyman. That's upsetting.
So it's always worth doing like when I get my journeyman status, the next step for me is definitely becoming a red seal. Like, you've got nothing to lose, right? And even here in Ontario, there is quite a difference in responsibility and pay jump between a journeyman and a red seal. So So that's definitely worth it.
That's wonderful. I agree. Okay. And thank you for explaining kind of like the way that you walk through of like apprenticeship to then journeyman, which is amazing. And then the red seal that you can get. And I'll probably congrats to Andrea now that I actually know what that means a little bit more.
It pretty much means like you know it all. And the whole country knows you know it all. Like, you're good. Like, we can give her any project and she'll be just fine. That's pretty much what it means.
Okay, very cool. I know she was very stressed. It was a lot of stress that went into it. I don't think I saw her for like 2 months. All she did was like read and practice TIG welding outside of my parents' house. And they were like, this is ridiculous. Oh my goodness. To kind of go to your apprenticeship and like you're learning all these new skills. I know like in trades, there's multiple specialties. Like in anything STEM trades, there's specialties within specialties within specialties. I know that there's like framing, formwork, and finishing. Do you have a favorite specialty? Do you have maybe like a favorite thing that you love to do in carpentry? What's something that you get like really nerded out about?
I mean, I want to try everything.
Okay, I love it.
Yes, because I think that I like framing. I think I do, because that's what I did in my pre-apprenticeship. It was mostly framing. But, you know, like I tried scaffolding. I like it. I wouldn't mind doing it. I don't think it's something I'll do forever or something I'll specialize in. But, you know, I could try formwork and like love it so much more than framing. So I'm kind of, at this point, what I envision is framing houses. Like I just think that
Oh,
is the coolest
cool.
thing. So I'm hopeful that I'll get an opportunity soon to really start doing that within a company.
Mm.
But that's kind of all up in the air. It could be
I
any of them.
I love that attitude of being like, I don't know yet, man. I like them
Yeah.
all. Like,
Like it's all appealing. I love being outside and I love working with
mm,
my hands. I love using power tools. For me, it's the satisfaction of seeing something be nothing and then be
mm,
something and knowing that I was a part of it. And all aspects of pretty much any trade, you get
mm.
that. So yeah,
Oh,
I'm not
totally.
sure.
Like to see something like go from absolutely nothing to then build. Like I think that what trades or what hands-on work really gives you is like is pride because you're like, oh yeah, I made that. Like you see that screw, I put that in. You see that frame,
Yep.
that was me. Like see that piece of wood that got
Yeah.
hauled up all those stairs, I did that. It was terrible, but it
Yeah.
was me. Like it
Yeah.
has that kind of ownership to it, which I think is so beautiful. And I love that you kind of love all aspects of it, and who knows where you're going to end up. For kind of tools or power tools, do you have a favorite nerd out power tool or technique that you're like, give me like a nice rotary saw all day, or give me a sander? Like what do you like?
It's probably a tie between a circular saw and probably a nail gun.
Oh, you're
You
hardcore.
you never feel as powerful as you are with a nail gun. I'm
Mm,
telling you. That's got a lot of torque. And a lot of them are actually a lot lighter than you would expect. So, and just how quickly you can get things done with a nail gun, you just
mm.
kind of feel like a badass.
That's true. You know what? I haven't felt like a badass when I've used a nail gun. I felt reckless and out of control, but it's probably because I don't have the training. Like someone was like, "Can you frame this?" And I was like, "Okay." They just gave me it. I felt like I was going to hurt somebody. I was like, "This is very powerful."
Yeah, yeah, there's a lot of power behind those. And yes, it's very easy to hurt someone, so you have to be very careful, but it does feel good to successfully just, use it. That's
Mm,
probably my favorite. Yeah.
I love that. I love that answer because it also gives you speed. Like you can go through a framing project really quickly with a nail gun.
Yeah.
Like you can run over the house and build an entire house in a day, I'm sure.
Yes, totally.
Complete the entire house in one day for sure.
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah, if you're
Well,
doing piecework, then that would be great.
and this answer will probably be so many different things because I feel like this has been a standard throughout this interview is that you just love all things carpentry, which is just so infectious and so amazing. But what, if you can choose one, maybe choose a couple if there's not just one, what's your favorite part of your job? Is it being outside? Is it fixing something? And then maybe what's something that is a least favorite, something that's a little bit challenging about your job?
I would probably my favorite is definitely, I mean, yes, working outside is a huge thing. And I think that right now I still have like the rose colored glasses. Everyone that I work with is like, "Oh, like, you're outside all day. Are you sure this is something that you want to do like outside in the cold and the heat?" And I'm
Yeah.
like, I've been in an office for 10 years. I love being outside. Ask me in 5 years, I might hate it.
Yeah.
I'm still relatively new. Definitely what we were talking about earlier is just seeing the beginning and the end of a project and just knowing that you were a part of it, that kind of self
Mm,
satisfaction that you get. Even the job I'm at now with the scaffolding, we'll build the scaffold and then 2 days later we'll be walking around that same area in the plant and I'll see the welders up there welding and knowing that like they're able to do their job right now
mm,
because we built that scaffold. So like even just small things like that
yeah.
gives me a lot of pride, which is my favorite.
Yeah. I love
Um,
that.
yeah, I love working within a team as well.
Hmm.
Office work is very like individual based, just you in front of your computer doing whatever you need to do. I love that as well. Even just like site banter, like that stuff just kind of it's nice. Yeah.
Totally. Like it's a
Right.
community and like you get to see the impact that your work has on other people and you get to see because that you went in and you built that scaffold. Tim, your buddy that you're going to razz at lunch, was able to do his job and you're going to make
Yeah.
fun of him while you have your little break and your smoko, but like you got to be kind of part of his day. It's a very team centered industry and it just does feel very rewarding because you probably also get really close to your crew, I'm guessing.
Yes,
Yeah.
very close. Yeah, I mean, since it is a shutdown, the hours are because they just want to get it done as fast as possible are crazy. We work 6-10, so 6 days a week,
Oh,
10 hours a day,
yep.
and then now that we're near the end, it's 7-12, so 7 days a week,
Oh,
12 hours a day.
oh goodness.
So we
Yeah.
spend a lot of time together.
Yep.
So
Oh my goodness, that's a very, very long day. And maybe that's the challenge is just like long. Do you get time off after? Are you like any rotational or no?
no, because the contract in itself is it's about a month because they want us
Okay.
in and out. So it's a short contract. I know that there's a lot of scaffolders that just they chase shutdowns for that reason because they make so much money from working
Yeah.
so many hours that they'll do just 3 or 4 shutdowns a year and like they're good financially.
Oh, that's really nice. And then that's
So
three
they'll
months
travel
of
throughout
work.
Canada. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, that's good. I would say anything that I don't like about it, I would probably say, well, actually, it's a recent experience that I have. It's just a struggle that we have as being women in trades. I do feel like I'm a very positive, energetic, smiley person. And I've
Good.
been told multiple times at my job that I smile too much and that I'm too
Okay.
happy, you know? Which
Ugh.
I feel like a lot of women say that they are told to smile. Like, why don't you smile more? Or
Yeah.
I'm told that I smile too much, and I think that it's seen as like a sign of like ignorance or like dim-wittedness. But there's that, and then like even just like small amounts of harassment, like people like
Mm,
asking me for my phone number, and if I say no, then they'll continue to hound me. And I'm still in that phase of just trying to be a people pleaser and not trying to rock the boat. And I think that if I could have gone back in time, I probably would have said something a bit more stern.
yeah.
But I just responded like that. I'm like, no. And then like walk away.
Yeah. I know.
Yeah.
I feel you and I'm so sorry that you went through this. I went through the same thing when I first started in mining and I also got the same comments of being like you're too happy and you're too smiley and you're like, "One, why is that a bad thing? Like, okay, you're Grinch. Like, why should we be miserable at our jobs? Like, why is this a negative that we're happy and bubbly? And like why is that also associated with dimness and like if a man was happy and bubbly they would be called charming and like have leadership qualities. Why is this only a negative when it's assigned to me that it's a lack of intelligence? Like it's just pure bias. So I'm sorry that you went through that. And the thing with the harassment and the hounding is like you answered completely fine because there's really no answer that you could give in that situation to really deal with that person. Like that person is just not a good person because they're sexually harassing somebody at work. You know what I mean? Like if you had
Yeah.
given a stern reaction, I wish it could have been a different reality, but he probably would have done the same thing. He probably would have kept on hounding you. And I don't know if that's good advice, but it helped me when I would look back and be like, oh, I wish you would have been like stronger or have done something different to be like, well, do I
Yeah.
really think that would have had an impact? Like maybe, maybe not, but I just wouldn't beat yourself up about it to be like, okay, I was too big of a people pleaser to it's a scary like 5 second decision that you have of 30 seconds that someone comes up and asks you. Like you don't know how you're gonna react because like it's just you have no time, right? I won't
Yeah.
beat yourself up.
Yeah, well, thank you.
You're
Yeah, it's
welcome.
like you don't have time, but you also don't want because you still, especially when you're new with the industry, you still want to be liked.
Yeah.
And then it's also, since everything is who you know and word of mouth, if I make a big deal about
Yeah.
this, will I be seen as difficult or hard to work with or someone who can't take a joke?
Yeah.
Or, one of those women that reports everything. Like, you know what I mean? There is that kind of dark cloud, but you don't want to be seen as
Yeah.
emotional, which is ridiculous because it's not emotional. It's a fair
No.
way to react to something like that. But you
Hmm.
worry, all those things kind of like, I remember like thinking all of those things in like the span about 5 seconds before I said anything back to him. You know what I mean? It's kind of conditioned into
Yeah.
our brains. So,
Totally. And I think it's so hard to get out of that, but it's also I don't think I'm out of that. Like I think it's unfortunately just kind of this terrible thing that we have to deal with in this industry or these type of environments. And I remember having those same worries whenever it would happen to me, like that I would be sexually harassed or harassed in general, that I would be like, okay, don't make a stink. Cause mining's the same way. It's really much anyone who you know, right? It's always like friends of friends. So it's all about networking and building that connection early on. So you don't want to make a stink.
yeah.
And then I also kind of thought that like I had to withstand a certain amount of harassment to prove that I was tough enough for that space.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And that's a ridiculous
Yes.
sentiment, but I thought that for years, that I was like, okay, you not saying anything is proving that you were a good geologist and proving that you were tough enough for this environment. And it's a weird mentality. I think it doesn't happen in other industries, and it's just a very unfortunate thing. I don't know how to solve it. I wish I did, but it's,
Yeah.
or what to do, but I'm so sorry that you went through that as well. It's
Oh, well,
brutal.
no, no, no. I'm sorry that you had to go through it. I mean, I think at any point, any female that's in our industries goes through it at least once, but if not,
Yeah.
it's pretty constant. But yeah, you're right. It is kind of like that pressure that, if I kind of, I don't want to say it like this, but like cry wolf every time, that I'm just seen as someone who can't handle that
Hmm.
area of the trades, which
Hmm.
is, it shouldn't be that way. But
No. And
yeah.
hopefully it's changing. I do think that, like, the one good, if there is a silver, if there is something good about this, if you can make a good out of this situation, is the silver lining of it is that, like you said, almost every single woman has gone through it, but you have a bunch of kind of allies and mentors and people that you can talk to talk through it. But I also think that you have a community that has your back. And I think as that community gets stronger and stronger in trades and STEM, which it is, there's more women joining it. Women are telling their stories, being louder with their male counterparts and male mentors. Eventually, I think the culture will change. And I do think that, like,
Yeah.
having these conversations and talking with your girlfriends and talking with your guy friends at a site or at work does do a lot of impact. I think that could be the only silver lining I can see, is the amount of people talking about it. Hopefully it'll change something, right?
Yeah, yeah. I think that once there is a point where, I mean, I would love to see it 50-50,
Yeah.
male and female. That's the goal. That's kind of like what
Hmm.
I see for the future. If that will happen, I hope so. But I think that even if that is the case, I think that, there won't be this struggle of power where someone thinks that they can do that, because
Yeah.
because it's 50-50. Like
Yeah.
it's not like there's one or two women on the crew and a whole handful of dudes, you know what I mean?
Totally.
They know they have that support, and there's going to be more supervisors and foremans that are women as well. So
Hmm.
even just having support from your boss, so I think it is changing. So
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I love that future. And I hope it's a 50-50. I really do. That's a future that I want to. So I absolutely love that. Thank you for sharing this. Thank you for answering that. That was a wonderful answer. And I think it's very powerful for people listening, because I know that they've also probably gone through the same thing. So I just appreciate that a lot. And maybe going to something a little bit different, but equally as powerful, but in a different way, is I know right now that you're working with Habitat Hamilton, which is this
yes.
really cool, wonderful organization. Could you kind of describe the experience, what you guys are doing, and then the importance of these type of, like, community initiatives in construction? Because they're pretty, like, the impact to community is insane. Like, it's so sick.
Yes, of course. Yeah, no, when I was doing my pre-apprenticeship, my mentor slash one of my teachers, she kind of mentioned to me, because I was thinking like, oh, I have no experience, a lot of, because I was the only female that graduated from my
Oh,
pre-apprenticeship.
wow. Okay.
Yes.
Oh my
Um,
goodness. Okay.
so even just certain things like, like even I feel like men are brought up that they've, like we were saying earlier, like touched a power
Hmm.
tool before, or maybe they did like summer work with their dad on the, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? But I had
Yes.
nothing. I only had office work on my resume, and she suggested doing volunteering for Habitat for Humanity. So I was like, oh, yeah, let's do that. No, it's been amazing, amazing. So right now we have two projects on the go. We have a new build, which is a 5 townhouse building.
Wow, that's big.
Um,
Yeah, that's awesome.
yes. So that's been really fun because that's been a lot of framing,
Oh,
which I'm
back to your
slowly
love.
also learning. I love
Yeah.
it. And then there's another one which is also really awesome. So it's the city housing of Hamilton. So we're just kind of going in the city housing area and just renovating the townhouses there. A lot of them are in really, really rough shape. So just kind of renovating them so that a new family can kind of move into a nice, fresh, clean space, which has been really nice. So it's just trim, painting, flooring, just
Mm-hmm.
kind of gives them a little bit of a refresher. So it kind of feels more like home. A lot of them have kind of been battered up pretty pretty
Yeah.
decently. And the importance, I mean, it's tough. I feel like it goes without saying. It just feels
Hmm.
good to kind of give your time. And I mean, Habitat for Humanities are all over the place. So if anyone's listening and you're curious, just look up your
Hmm.
area and just put in Habitat for Humanity. There will be something. They're always looking for people. You don't need any experience at all. You know, there's people that showed up that have never held a hammer, never held a paintbrush. Anyone that's there is there to mentor you and show you what to do. There's no pressure on time, or like no one's like hurry
Hmm.
up, or like you're doing that wrong, you know, like it's kind of like a very like nice, calm, inclusive space where you can just kind of like help them out, and it feels good. And you meet amazing people.
Oh.
I've met amazing people that I still talk to on the daily. So no, it's a really positive experience.
Oh my goodness, it sounds so beautiful. Like I love what the program does, Habitat for Humanity, obviously, and how it has different chapters all throughout Canada and all throughout North America, and just the amount of impact that they bring to a community and giving someone like decency in their living conditions, like fixing something up and making it like a nice home and
Yeah,
affordable is just it's so wonderful to see. But I also love on a training aspect and like that if you're a woman in trades and maybe you don't have that experience because you weren't brought up with it, it's such a wonderful way to learn, to get mentorship, to get connections. It's a really safe space to learn, and you get to do a big impact to your community. It's like wins across the board. It's like
yeah.
five wins.
There's no
Yeah,
losing. Yeah, yeah.
that's
It's awesome.
amazing. No, that's so cool. And I
Excuse me.
I love those two projects that you're working on and that you get to work into this community. I just think it's so beautiful, and kudos for you to give back, and especially if you're a skilled trades, right? Like you probably walk on site and they're like, thank God we got a professional, right? Like they're like, we're probably so happy for all of our members to come in and join us, but like it's nice to have another mentor show up and someone that who knows how to use tools. And I bet you that feels really good to show maybe like other men or young women who are there to be like, yeah, I know how to use a power tool. I can teach you. And to now be a
Yes,
mentor to someone else.
100%. It definitely feels like paying it forward, which I
Mm.
didn't think I would be able to do this early on in my trades journey. So yeah, like I guess you said, it's like a win-win, 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 win-win.
Like 10 times win win win. I agree. Like it just is. So like that's so freaking cool. And I like the paying it forward and the mentorship. And speaking of another community initiative that you're part of, and this is meeting your heroes. These are the people that got you into carpentry, which is freaking insane. I love that full circle moment. This is Women in Sight, and you're an active member. Could you kind of speak to what Women on Site is, the importance of that, like community and mentorship and representation of women in trades, why it's so important in construction?
So it is an organization where it's a bunch of us women that organize meetups for anyone who's interested, and you don't even have to be a part of trades yet, even if you're just interested in it and you want to just talk
Cool.
to some people that are working within it. It's just like a safe space for everyone to come together and, you know, talk about our experiences. It's great for networking. Like, you know, I've gotten some jobs from ladies that I had met from there. You know, like
Awesome.
even just yeah, you know, everyone speaks open and honest about their experiences, which is good to know. Like, I feel like I would have been a lot less prepared for getting into, especially union work,
Mm.
if I hadn't had those talks and those mentors to kind of explain and kind of break down how it really was going to be. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? It's amazing, and everyone is always there. We all support each other at all times, and our group just keeps growing and growing and growing and growing, and it's so cool to see. but
Yes.
yeah, it's just kind of, it just feels good to know that you have a group of women, you know, that if you have a bad day, it's like
Hmm.
just to know that we've all had them. Like, you're never alone. And I think that when you're working within the trades, you feel alone as a female a lot.
Yeah.
A lot. So yeah, it's nice to have like that community of women. So it's just organizing meetups where we can all do something fun together and bond and share stories. And yeah, I think it's
What
very
a
important. I don't think I'd be as confident as I am now if I didn't have them. So
No, what an amazing thing. And like, I've been a fangirl of Women on Site and like lurking them from BC, just be like, I
Yeah.
hope they come here. I hope that they have a chapter here soon. Like, or just being like, I wish I was in Ontario. Like, I would like to go to the summer harvest that's upcoming. Like, you know what I mean? Like that sounds really nice. Like, it's such a cool organization. And I just love what they and that what you guys have built, the community has built. I think it's so important. And I think you touched on something really important with saying sometimes women in trades feel like isolated and feel alone. And I think even within this interview, you've mentioned you were the only woman when you did your pre-apprenticeship. Like that is alone and that is isolating if you just don't have other people with you. I know when I started one of my jobs, I was 4 out of 120 and I was one of the 4. You know what I mean? There was just 3 others. That was it. And if we were
Yeah.
all on shifts, you're like, well, I'm only going to see one other person that's a woman in this site. So it does really, really have a big impact to have a group of people there and to interact with. And I just think that's so beautiful that you get to have that community. You get to do something fun. I love that. I think that's a break
Yeah.
from kind of like the roughness sometimes of our trade. And I
Yeah.
love too that you're able to have those mentors and to talk with them. I think that's so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's absolutely amazing. And yeah, they plan like the funnest meetups for us. So it's amazing.
Oh, that's so cool. Well, hopefully one time if I'm in Ontario, I would love to pop in and join. I think it's really cool that it's also open for people not in trades and not in construction. I think that's a wonderful thing as well.
Yeah. I mean, I know that there's always plans of expanding. I know they want to go across Canada and, possibly even into the US. So there could be something opening up in BC at some point.
Well, I'll come. The first one that they have in BC, I will make it. I will come to their first event. I think that's so beautiful and I love that you found that community and it's just really cool that they were the people that kind of inspired you to get into this field and now they get to be your friends. And
Yeah.
maybe it's that, maybe it's the community for this next question, but what is something that's inspiring you right now? What's like from personal experience? I know that like these environments can kind of be a little bit hard. What's something that inspiring you and that like gets you to keep going, to go through it?
It's kind of like the same answer for what
Mm,
got me in it in the first place. It's Instagram. I feel like now I'm kind of part of like this algorithm. So now I have these women that are in trades or especially in carpentry always popping up and I finding all these new accounts. And I just feel like it's always just kind of pushing me and showing me that I can do more and I can, I think that's always been the inspiration. It's just
hmm.
seeing these other women doing these crazy things. There's one female carpenter that I follow on Instagram and just seeing like the homes that she frames. And, like
Cool.
it's insane. Like I
Yeah.
could watch her videos all day. And I think that's what kind of pushes me. I don't really post as much as other tradeswomen, mostly because I haven't really had a job where I can have a camera out. um,
Yeah. At a
um,
scaffold, like hanging above a plant? No, you don't want a
no,
camera. Absolutely not.
no, and I'm working at like a pretty big plant. That's
Mm,
they don't want any other stuff being what I mean posted.
yeah.
But that's why I do post what I can is because like even if one female comes across my profile and they resonate with something, and it makes them feel bold enough to take a leap of faith and go for it, then like that's more than enough for me. So
Oh,
just yeah, because that's what it was for me. So like,
yeah.
and I'm sure these people that I've found on Instagram probably have no idea that they had completely changed my life overnight. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I love that. And I love that idea again. It's like a full circle of paying it forward. But I also love like stalking people on Instagram and be like, I don't know if you know that this parasocial relationship exists, but like I'm being a cheerleader here for women on site from Vancouver. You know what I mean? Or
Yeah.
cheerleader to like any woman in trades. I get a lot of welding videos from my sister because she sends me a lot of them. Like any other welder that pops up on my page, I'm like, oh, that's going to be Andrea one day, or like that could be Andrea one day. And like that's just extremely powerful to see. And if you don't have that community in real life, it's really easy to have that community on social and like to have the power of social media kind of be used in a good way because I think a lot of social media
Yes.
is not very nice, but this is like one
Hmm.
aspect where it can be used for good. That's pretty beautiful. And hopefully in maybe a couple months, you're going to get a message from somebody to be like, hey, I saw your video and now I'm a carpenter. Or I met you at Habitat Humanity in humanity, Hamilton. My words are getting all mixed up, but like now I'm a carpenter as well. Like you passed me a nail gun and I felt wild and reckless and then I felt powerful and now this is it. Right? Like who knows?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And then Patricia, just because I don't want to take up too much of your time, the last question, is there any kind of misconceptions? I'm sure there's loads about being a woman in trades and anything that you kind of want to clear up and clear up that misconception and maybe offer some advice for young ladies just starting out right now.
I would say it's okay to not know anything. It's okay. I still struggle with that. I feel as though if I don't know something, then like I'm stupid or that something isn't for me. Like I automatically kind of jump to that conclusion. I know it's having patience with yourself to not know the answer, having patience with yourself to not get it right the first time. I don't think that's a misconception. Sorry, I feel like that's not even really answering the question.
No, it's
But
okay. You don't have to answer the question. I think it's brilliant advice. I really do.
I think that's, like don't be too hard on yourself to pick things up super, super quick. Don't compare yourself to someone that's been doing it for even 6 months if you've only been doing it for a month, just being able to, I think there's pressure of, being a fast learner and always be moving and always be doing something. But I think it's also important to watch and to learn and to, just don't be so hard on yourself. Because I definitely was. I still am.
Yeah.
And it's something that I'm trying to battle through is to just be patient, take a breath, and be like, I don't need to know everything right now.
Yeah, it's okay that I'm just learning. It's okay that like my apprentice or journeyman or red seal carpenter who's teaching me has been doing this for 25 years. It's okay that I'm just learning. I've been doing this for
Yeah.
one. You know what I mean? I think
Yes.
it's good
I would.
advice.
I think that that's important. And I guess big misconception is that women aren't strong enough or smart enough. I think that's a very general statement that I think that anyone could agree on. But that was my big thing. I thought there's no way I would be able to lift this or move that, or no way I would be able to measure this properly or, pick up a tool that I don't know how heavy it is,
Yeah.
but we're just as strong. So it's a misconception, but I think it's kind of been like drilled into our brains, right? So it's just kind of working away from that thought and that idea. And if something is too heavy, it's okay to ask for help if you're carrying something. Or if something is too heavy, ask someone, am I carrying this right? That's how I learned how to pick up stuff at my current job. It's just, I realized that I kind of even just like looked goofy holding them the way that I was holding them.
Yeah.
I feel like anyone that was passing me was like, okay, so that's obviously a first year. Like, what are they doing? And not everyone is going to stop you and be a mentor and be like, hey, maybe you should try holding it like this. Sometimes you have to kind of come out and ask and be like, I feel like I look goofy right now holding this. Like, am I doing this right? So it's just not being afraid to admit your ignorance on a lot of things and to be patient with yourself during that learning process.
I think those are like beautiful answers. Couldn't have said it better myself. Like that, absolutely gorgeous. I think I love the idea of being open to learn, asking help, being okay that you don't know everything. And like I do think that that fear of being like, oh, I don't know everything. I think that's based on a misconception of that this space isn't designed for you, because I think sometimes when you talk about like this space being isolating and being the only woman there, I think you then have the mindset that you're like, I represent all women and any mistake that I make represents all of us. It becomes this like really big terrible thing that you have to have perfection at all places, even though you haven't even learned those skills yet. And I know that's something that I struggled with, that I wanted to be a senior geologist when I didn't even really understand what a rock was yet, right? And I was like, if I don't get this answer correct, then all women are failed. Like, you know what I mean? Like it's like this big burden on you, and it's this like idea of this misconception. And I think just allowing yourself to be a normal person in this industry and not having to represent a full community and having just to learn yourself, right? Like be okay with learning in the steps of processes of learning and just not feeling like you have to know everything and you have to be perfect.
Yes, and I do think that us as women, I think that we kind of, I wouldn't say we have to work harder, but I think that we have a lot more to prove because
Mm-hmm.
there's already kind of an idea of what we would be like on site or the things that we may not be able to do. So, trying to pick up these heavy objects, if I can't pick two of them up and all of my male counterparts pick up two
Yeah.
and I only pick up one, then I automatically think in their head, they're like, well, of course you can only pick up one. Of
Exactly. Like
course.
it's that kind
You
of like
know?
self-fulfilling property of like misconception and bias. And then you put that like pressure on yourself. And when you can't live up to that pressure, maybe just because you're just starting or your body's a little bit different, then it becomes like you're beating yourself up about it. And just realize, don't do that. It's okay. It's okay that you only
Yeah.
picked up one. No one cares. They probably didn't even notice. Honestly, they're probably
Yeah.
thinking about like their next smoke break,
Excuse me.
right?
Yeah.
Like, or like that the
Yeah.
fact that they have to pee or like that they don't want to go up 20 flights of stairs. They're probably not even noticing you, but like it's just getting out of that mindset's hard. It's been drilled into us for a long time. So again, I think it's wonderful advice, Patricia, and just thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. It was so nice getting to know you. It was so nice chatting. Thank you for coming onto the show. I loved it.
So did I. This is my first podcast experience and it's been awesome. Thank you so much, Alexis, for finding me and offering to do this. It's been really nice chatting with you. A really, 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 really nice time chatting with you.
Oh, I appreciate it. No, thank you very much. And if you would like to come onto the show anytime, you just let me know and we can come back on. We could talk about something specific. I would absolutely love that. You're invited whenever. Thank you so much for coming on the show, Patricia. I appreciate it a million times. Thank you, thank you. And thank you guys for listening and for watching us. This is the Smoko podcast. Thank you. We will see you next week. Bye-bye. Thank you again.